Bullshit, I can't hear you. Sound off like you got a pair.
Hey, Gumby and Guy, what's up? Happy Sunday, dudes. Agent 57, what's up, man? Hadn't seen you in a while. Hope you've been doing well. There's no need to apologize, man. Hope everything starts working out better for you, though. Believe me, I know all about tough times. Hey, Killa, what's up, man? Agent, I'm sorry to hear you're going through a rough time, man. All right, let's kick it off. I'm trying to see. Okay, good. This is working in here. Hang on, something in here is not working. What is this? What's this one? Let me run this real quick. We'll get started. I hope this comes up with the right window. We'll see. Oh, you know what would help? I knew I was forgetting something. I didn't put the green screen back where it's supposed to be. I'm a freaking idiot. Pro streamer move is what that is. Pro freaking streamer. I was thinking, I was like, man, this was really easy to get set up tonight. Didn't take very long. Everything was looking good. And then I'm like, wait, that ain't right. And that's a proper term in Texas. That ain't right. At 57, I understand, man. Dude, if you can make it to the streams, that is awesome. But I understand there are far more important things than coming over and hanging out in the live stream. I completely understand that, man. Negative 17 in Canada. Damn. And here I am. Wait, hold on. I think negative 15 is where Celsius and Fahrenheit overlap, if I remember correctly. Hold on. When I can't type. Celsius and Fahrenheit meet. I think it's at negative 15. Oh no, take it back. Negative 40. I was not even close. So dang, that's cold. 57. I mean, not 57. That's cold, guy. I know what I'm talking about. Chilling at 58 degrees, dude. It's what is it? It's 19 degrees right now in Dallas. It is chilly. All right, let's go see here. So, yeah, let me run this real quick. So last night we left off with testing out Spec Kit here, and it was going through and basically doing a spec-driven design or a software design document, however you want to think about it. And we're going through and we're going to see if we can make an MCP server for Mythic to interact with, that we can use for the post-exploitation agent to use. So I'm just picking up right where we left off last night with this. We had a very go nowhere day today. Actually, I did bundle up the kids. I took them for a walk around the neighborhood. The street has like 6-inch curbs, right? And there's about 1 inch left. The rest of it is a solid sheet of ice. You're talking like 5-inch ice, thick sheet. It's nuts. It's very cold out there. And like I'm walking on it and there's no give to it. Zero whatsoever. Man. Last night, by the way, after we raided out, we raided Hectic, and she was playing Arc Raiders. Damn, that game looks fun. I really badly want to get it. It looks like so much fun. It looks like Tarkov without me hating myself for playing it. Okay, so this is user story 1. 13 tasks to deliver core callback listing capabilities. Operators can immediately see all activity callbacks in their engagement. A rat. It's 6 degrees where you're at, Gumby. Ooh. Ugh. It got a slightly bit colder than that in whenever we had the big snowstorm that almost knocked out the Texas power grid in 2021. That's about how cold it was getting. I think the coldest it got was 2 degrees Fahrenheit, which is as cold as I ever remember it in Texas. But then not like I paid close attention when I was a kid. Let's see, what other optional commands do we have in here? Clarify. Ask structured questions to de-risk ambiguous areas before planning. Run before plan if used. Let's see. What to analyze? Cross artifact consistency and alignment report after tasks and before implement. Okay, let's go try that. Well, let's see what happens here. Go analyze things. Do things. Go on. Do LLM things. I'm actually very curious to see how good or bad this does. We should have... Yeah, so Mythic is up and running right now. Yep, so we're logged in there. What are the errors I've got here? Oh, yeah. I forgot about those. I gotta talk to Cody about that to figure out why those are acting the way they are. There's a version mismatch between some of the agents we put in and what's actually supported in Mythic right now. Let me try something real quick. I think set mouse. Oh, there we go. That's so much easier. All right. So what do we have here? So I told it to do an analyze. I'm going to analyze all the artifacts, build a semantic model, and perform some analysis. Let's see. Ambiguity, medium. Recommendation. Clarify if server version is required. If so, add something checkpoint. Oh, okay. I'm guessing that means like if a mythic version is required. I like that little emote. Let's see, severity, medium. Actually, I don't think this is actually worth dealing with right now. Just because the GraphQL database structure, I think, has been really stable in Mythic for a long time. Let's see. No critical constitution violations. Next actions. No critical or high issues were found. Okay. Nah, I don't care about that. Let's see what else we can do. Let's see if we can actually get it to start coding something. So we ran test. Now we're just going to run implement right here, where it's actually going to start creating the implementation. And let's watch what it does. Implement this. Yeah, don't ask for that again. We can just allow that. Dude, I had because the roads were so iced up, we didn't go anywhere today, and Sock opened the windows to the backyard, and when she, not open the windows, but like open the blinds, and it startled a whole flock of birds that were on the back porch, and she felt so bad.
Hello, IT. Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Several times, actually. But she felt so horrible because one of the birds just freaking rocketed, boom, straight up into the roof of the porch and broke its own neck and just started flopping around. She felt horrible just for opening the blinds. And so I had to go out there and go clean it up because couldn't leave the bird out there. Peaches would probably be dumb and try to eat it. Bird was dead. Bird was dead. I went and checked on it. There was dunzos. And So there's a gate going from the backyard to where the trash cans are. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna put you in a plastic bag and put you in the trash can. Nothing else I can do for you. And I couldn't even open the gate because the ice had welded the bottom of the gate shut. I was like, man, I can't. I'm afraid to even try and open my garage door. I'm afraid it's gonna rip it off the wall if it does that. The ice is insane, and it is ice. It is. I saw the most minor, piddly amount of snow happening, but it wouldn't happen. It's me, Mario. Mario, thanks for coming online, man. Welcome in. Are we exposing our ports, giving full access to the external APIs with CloudBot? I have seen everybody memeing on CloudBot Starship, but I haven't actually gone to look at it yet.
Welcome, agent.
Oh, hey Mario, thanks for subbing, dude. Actually, I take it back. I'm using the wrong vernacular. Thank you for popping a shell. Also, hey Chris, what's up, man? And Monkey, what's up, dude? Yeah, so what we're doing right now is we're kind of not quite Ralph Wigguming this. Nerd. Love it. Not quite doing a Ralph Wiggum here, but I'm testing out something called Spec Kit, and it's from the guys at GitHub. They're actually the ones who put this out. The idea is you can use it to do spec-driven design documents that are kind of like tailor-made almost for something like Claude Code to go in and work with it.
I can't hear you. Sound off like you got a pair.
I thought I had rate limits on all these sounds. I guess not, because you guys are just going ham on them. And so, anyway, it's going through, and we're trying to see if we can get it to like prototype a Mythic MCP server for us and kind of see what happens with it. So basically, just a little test. We're gonna probably need this, and then also.
Buy you a pewter for Christmas?
She did. My mommy loves me. What's funny is I'm the same age now as when my mom had me. I was 42, or she was 42 when I was born. I'm 42 now.
23, see what's up.
Damn, Monkey, you just been hoarding all the discs, haven't you? All you guys. It was a kamikaze in reverse. I know. Act the planet. So, but yeah, that's about what I did for today. Oh, something else fun I did is the kids were begging to watch Pokemon. So, being, you know, the good dad, I decided, hell no, you're not going to watch Pokemon. We're going to watch The Last Starfighter from 1984. It held up surprisingly well. Yeah, my mom was 42 when I was born. I'm the youngest of 5. So I've got 4 brothers and a sister. And so now it's funny because my mom is exactly, you know, twice my age now. So it's kind of weird to think about like that. Well, it works a little bit different. Also, shut up, baby, I know it. It works a little bit different for, you know, men than women. At that point, yeah, you're kind of, unless you've already started having children, come 40, you're probably, as a woman, not having any more children. But as a man, those swimmers stay active for a long time. I think that if I remember right, for The Last Starfighter, it was intended for VFX, and they were wanting to use Star Wars initially. I think I was watching, I'm pretty sure I was watching a remastered version, Monkey, because the graphics looked way too good for 1984. They didn't look anything modern, right? But they looked better than 1984. Not as good as, you know, 2020, 2025. Oh yeah, Agent, I mean, Sock was 34 when we had Agent Zero. So, because we didn't get married till we were kind of older, just through circumstance and life events. I remember one day like feeling really depressed when I was 25, thinking, "Holy crap! I thought I would have like a wife and at least one kid by now, and like an awesome job." And I was like, "Nope, missed that mark by that much." The version you watched was probably the lower quality TV version. I don't know, maybe. I liked it though. The kids actually liked it too, and so I was surprised that they were really whiny in the beginning because it takes a little bit for the show to kind of like take off. And then I forgot about the station wagon DeLorean that he picks up the kid in. Checking tool descriptions. This is actually kind of cool the way it's processing this. Yeah, when he takes off his mask and like you just see him holding two eyeballs with a bar between them. That was funny. I just caught Bender walking out of the courtroom responding to the other bots. Shut up, baby, I know it. I love that scene. Stupid anti-pimping laws. What's funny is I remember that scene because he's like, wait, people will pay for companionship? And then he's like in court. And he's like, stupid anti-pimping laws. Oh, I guess using Python 3 is okay for this. I do like, so then look at this. This is something I've noticed about how the language models are working. You look at this line, it's doing what it wants. It's going to take standard error and deuce it out. Or actually, I'm sorry, it's going to take the standard error, send it over to the standard in buffer, so it only has to read that. But then it echoes, like if this returns an okay, it says, hey, by the way, this is all good, right? And so it gives it like a keyword that it can kind of hone in on to say, hey, the command actually works just fine. I think that's pretty slick how they're doing, like basically how they've trained the model to do that. I gotta rewatch all the Futurama once I'm finished with One Piece. Dude, One Piece is so long, man. I want to watch One Piece. There's so many good memes from One Piece. I can't commit to 1,000 episodes, bro. You're at 910? Damn. Oh, did I not install the commit? Hang on, let's go. Let me come down here. I want the... Oh, are you for real? Are you doing this to me again? So there is a bug in Le Claude code here. Look at this. So if I come over to Claude, right? I go to installed. Nothing's installed, right? We don't see any plugins installed from a marketplace. However, if I come over here and I go to plugins official. Shut up, baby. I know it. And I look at all the plugins here, right? It's going to say that the commit command is installed. But I haven't quite sussed out exactly what's causing this. Yeah, it bugs me so much. I've had to fix this before. Hold on. Let me look at something real quick. Let me do Claude. Hang on, I gotta drop it in OPSEC mode real quick. I gotta check the settings file, and I don't think there's anything sensitive in there. Yeah, there's not. So I think this is where the issue comes in, is enabled plugins isn't showing what it should in here for this, even though it is showing as installed. I think, let me come over here. I think, where was it? Maybe in, when I was doing something in Ghostwriter, maybe it showed up in there. Hold on, I gotta go back into OPSEC mode. Because I don't remember which one of these have. Nope, that ain't it. Stand by. Because I gotta remember which one of these I actually did it in. Crap, what was the name of that folder? I had so many projects in here I was working on. Wasn't Ghostwriter. Wasn't HackBot. Dang it, I can't remember which one it was in here. Somewhere in here, in one of those settings.json files, I know I've got it set up. I don't think it's in PostX agent either. Yeah, let's see. PostX agent, Claude. It doesn't even have a settings. Damn it, where was that? I'm trying to remember. So what I'm trying to find here is, right, actually, let me fix that one. Let's split this vertical right here. So if I cd over to .claude, I cat the settings.json. So what's happening here is this enabled plugins should show that, hey, we've got one of these kind of set up in here. I think there might be another way to do that. Let me look at here. I think it's plugins, and then let's look at, oh no, maybe it's underscore installed plug, or underscore installed plugins.json. I think this one might be it. Yeah, I think this is what I need right here. I think it's just maybe this line. I don't remember if I need this for the whole thing or what. Here, actually, there's a way we can test this out. So the plugin management for Claude Code is kind of dookie sometimes, especially whenever you've got stuff coming in from, because you have different layers you can do things at. You can do things at a global layer. That's when you're in your root directory.claude. You can do stuff in your project layer, which is in the project folder .claude. I'm not pooping Gumby, I'm right here, bro. And then all those kind of have to mesh between one another, and they don't always sync up. And then in theory, actually what you could do is, instead of having just like a single .claude directory, you can actually pass an environment variable that tells it, oh, by the way, here's the actual config files for all of Claude, and here's the other config files for all of Claude. However, the plugins don't go to wherever the config directory is. No, they go to the regular default home directory.claude. So yeah, it's vibe coded. It works really well, except it does have bugs in it. It's not bug-free code. Let me try something real quick. So what we'll do is, I'm going to do a Claude continue. It's going to pick us up right where we left off when we exited out of this. I'm going to go install a plugin. And I'm just going to find one real quick. Something simple. I mean, there's Playwright. I want something just like super tiny. Plugin dev, Notion. Let me see if I can just find something real quick. Don't want Slack. A lot of these are like really large in here. Hugging Face wouldn't be any use. Circle back, that's funny. Oh, that one's from Trailabits, the Burp Suite project parser. I gotta go play with that one. Sounds fun. Okay, just for grins and giggles, I'm gonna install this one here. And I'm going to install it at the user scope right here. So what should happen now is it should go through, and if we go look at, let me cd back over to this. Let me look at the settings. Here we go. So this is what it looks like. It's the plugin name at whatever the what is that? Whatever the project is. But that's fine because this means we should already have this installed. So I'm going to go take this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to vim this sucker now. Vim this, and I'm going to open it. I'm going to, no, undo. Why did it not copy that? Yeah, that should all be spaces. Come here. It should have done this. Hang on. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Damn it. Hang on. I need to get this. I need this one right here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set that to true in here. So let me come down here. Let's open you up, insert. Why are you doing that? All right, fine. We'll do it this way then. Gotta get the fucking plugins unscrewed up. Where was this one? Here it is. Let me grab this. This is being very rude.
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumby.
Oh my god. What are you doing, Gumby? Bad, Gumby. Bad. It was still going. What was this one? Okay, hold on. I got a better idea on how to do this. Let's grep commit out of here. Is that going to do it still? No, it's not. Oh, that's annoying. All right, fine. Screw it. I'll just type it in. Bad Gumby. Bad. All right. What is this? This is commit commands at quad plugins attack official. And we'll put that as true. I can't type. There we go. And now if we come back over to spec kit, let me exit this and then reload it. Keep you on your toes. I see that. Oh yeah, not sponsored by Jocko. Yeah. I was very thirsty. I knocked that out really fast. All right. There we go. So now you see the commit command is actually coming up here. This is a super handy command. In here, it automatically kind of tracks what files were modified for what you were doing. Goes through and auto adds them and commits them. Makes it super handy for seeing like what's left to work on. It does a really, really good job also of not committing stuff. Like let's say you had a bunch of test files you weren't in there, but they're not actually part of the code change. It will come through and automatically identify those like, oh yeah, that was a test file. Or that's got credentials in it. Let's not commit that because I've done that. And it's like, okay, yeah, cool. We'll just run it. Let's see. So it already did our commit. What did it add to this? Let's blow it up here. Let's see. So add the Mythic MCP server, core list tool callbacks, get tools, includes fast MCP, responds model with ISO 8601 timestamps. Nice. All right. So we had the Claude, we have the README, we got the Pi projects, all of this stuff. All the spec files, and then let's see, tools, callbacks, operations, status. Let's go look at these real quick. We've got them committed, but we can always back out of the commit. We don't have commitment fatigue here. Oh wait, hold on. This is the wrong. I was like, why is this in the wrong folder here? This was we were tinkering around with the PostX agent. Let me do open folder, Mythic MCP, open. Here we go. Let's take a look at this. I vaguely trust the author. So here's our Mythic MCP. We have our init. Just keeps track of which version we're on. Let's see. If type checking pass. All right, cool. So here's core list cool. Basically core list callbacks. Cool. So it's going to go to tool callbacks, and then this one's going to go to, again, callbacks. Ooh, I like this. So they've actually got this as a data type in here for a class, like list callback responses, get callback responses. Nice. Nice. Core get operation. Get information about the current Mythic operation. Oh, okay, so this is get operation, like, because you can have in Mythic up here, you can have different operations that you're working on, right? So we could have like Operation Chimera here. That would be like our current. We could swap over to that. We had another one that was like just for root me. So you can have those kind of partitioned in there. Okay. Gusta. Check connection. Verify connectivity and authentication status with the Mythic server. All right, cool. We want that. Let me see how they did this. So what do we have for models in here? Okay, cool. So for the callback, we have ID, display ID, the host username, agent. Nice. That's just about like everything we would want. Integrity level. Windows integrity level. Callback details. List callback responses. Get callback responses. Hold on, this is, why do we have, oh, let me close this out because I don't care about this. Why do we have these two different ones in here? Let me go back over to the server real quick. So we had get operation, get information about the current operation. Well, what were these two? These are for callbacks though. We had list and get callbacks in here. Get callbacks, list callbacks. So this one lists all active callbacks or compromised hosts in the current Mythic operation. This one says get detailed information about a specific Mythic callback ID. Oh, okay. That's handy. So you can choose which one you... So this is general list. This is detailed information about that particular one. Okay. I see where it's going now. Very cool. Server URL. Okay, cool. So what do we need to do next? I think what next thing we need to do is have it do a little testy test in here. Make toggle that closed. Compliance verified. What does it say after we do implement? Okay, we've got implement right there. So didn't we have something in here for testing though, right? So here's our tests. Integration test contract. Let's just go tell it to run our test suite in here. So let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Code implementation. Test it. See what it does. Because I really want to know how well this works. Like I said, for doing some smaller things, I've actually been able to get it to do quite a bit. And then, especially like when I had it modify impact it for me to do a couple of quality of life features on it. Are we running this through UV? Didn't we say that that was like a core requirement? This has to run as UV or be prepared to be installed as an ultraviolet tool. I thought we did. So as much as I want to have it do just all the Mythic MCP things, I'm thinking that we'll implement just enough, or we'll start adding stuff like as we come across that, hey, we might need this for the PostX agent. Which actually, crap, now that I think about it, some of that is, we can get started with the first part, right? Our first agent on the system is going to be Arachne, right? So we can operate through Arachne. Right now, Poseidon and Apollo have a Pi version mismatch that's happening. So they're a bit more troublesome to go set up and work with. Yep, go ahead and run. Config Pi came back okay. Models Pi came back okay. Connection Pi. I do like me some Pi. Oh, here we go. So we got an error from, which one was this? Does it import error lift fix? Okay. Can I import tool result from MCP types? Okay. So it's taking that out. So did it just take out tool result and we're like not even using it? I guess it would fail if we did that. So one of the other things we can do is we could take all this stuff and we can go roll this into an agent. Because like I was saying, your context is really the main thing that you're having to contend with in here. So one thing you can do is you can have your primary context operating here. And then you can have like a sub-agent context that operates over here. So you can send a job down to it and basically just get an output unit, let it use its own context and fill it up, and basically it's its own set of operations that happen. You do an input, you get an output. You don't have any visibility into what happened in between there. I mean, you do have some, but as far as this context is concerned, up here, you don't. It just cares about what was the input and what was the output to it. So one thing we can do is we can, to extend our current session, we can say all this stuff that you got going on here, all this should be handled by a sub-agent. We'll call that like a test runner. So now I will write the unit test. I like this. This is fun. Like I said, I like it for building fun stuff. And one of the cool things about whenever you're doing stuff with a lot of offensive security is the stuff doesn't have to be like pretty code. It just has to be functional. And I was talking to somebody on Twitter, and I said, it's crazy how fast you can go through and at least prototype things now because the code has gotten so cheap. The code used to be expensive. It was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And I still think people should go through and use those blood, sweat, and tears. You don't want to just go jump directly into this. What was I doing? I was working on Python for HackBot for over a year before I even started touching this. And honestly, I wasn't even using it for coding. I was using Claude Code for more generalized workflow automation, believe it or not. That was one of the things that Jason Haddix had showed me. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. And then I was like, well, let me just dabble in the coding aspect. And I was like, okay, it's doing a pretty good job. So it's been like a general progression from absolutely not my code, no touchy, to, yeah, go maybe an MCP server now. All right, so it's building out our test suite at the moment, which it should be doing like as we go through and we implement new portions to it. So right now we're just doing some of the core functionality. I think one of the other things we'll need is we're going to need core functionality for... Actually, I'm trying to think how to do that. For generating payloads, and then a core one would be downloading the payload. So essentially Mythic has its own file download, hosting, everything it does to take care of it. But we'd want to be able to get that down to be able to go like drop it onto the box, right? So we'll have to think about how we want to guide the agent through our prompt whenever we're doing this. Because we want to be able to tell it, hey, look, you've got an Arachne web shell. We want to try to upgrade this to something else, which we could do. We could have it go through and disown and no-hup a execution of Poseidon if we wanted to. We also could just go work through the web shell. There's nothing that says we can't do that. We just get a little bit of creature comforts working through Poseidon as opposed to Arachne. Unfortunately, so while this is churning, this is what these errors that we're seeing over in Mythic, if you come up here, let's see. Oh, now we got some new ones in here. Oh, those are old. That says it's from... Why are those showing up? But up here, it's saying, hey, we got a version mismatch for PyPy. And this is from... One of these is from Poseidon, and I think one of them is from Apollo. I think that's the issue in here. I might have to go find a particular branch or an older version of it to go run. Into it. We're going to turn shift, or accept edits on. We're just going to let it churn. All of this should have been set up using ultraviolet. Hold on. Let me go look at something in here. Yeah, hold on. Let me go look at the spec for this real quick. Where was that? We look at our specs. That's our templates, our scripts, memory, constitution. Let me look at this real quick. Dang it, I forgot. I can't control F because of that. But I can control H and just not worry about it. Oh, so we didn't tell it to use ultraviolet as part of this. We just told it to use Python. I'm surprised I didn't tell it to use ultraviolet. No, nothing. Okay. That was my bad. Let's see what it came back with. Let's see. Test summaries. 37 tests passed. We've got a bunch of coverage in some of these. Untested code requires integration tests, which is connection and server. Need a live Mythic server. Tool functions. Okay. Let's do something real quick. Go to agents. And then what we can do is actually we can use create new agent right here. And so this will be for this project. We'll go ahead and generate with Claude. And so test agent to run all test. Hold on. What do we call it? What were our test suites we had in here? Let me take a look real fast. Let's see. Integration unit tests. Yeah, to run test agent to run unit tests. And so what this will do is go through and create it and then make it so we can have it just return, or basically just this report. Because see, all this stuff that was happening in here, we had all of this coming back. And we shouldn't actually, we won't want this agent to go make any changes like this. It should go execute and then just report back on what happened. And then we can cut down a lot of this stuff. If there's an error coming back, then we can have the primary agent go through and look at, hey, what happened, and go fix it. But in actuality, we'd want just this part to kind of come through with it. So we don't want it to have access to all tools. We want it to have execution tools in here. Maybe read-only tools. What other tools do we have? Edit, write. Let's see. Yeah, we can give it access to each of those. But for the most part, we only want it to have read and execution permissions. And we don't even have to run this on anything crazy, right? We could actually run this on Sonnet. This would be a simple task, actually. We can run this in Haiku. And we'll make this Cyan. There we go. Save that. Okay. Now, for some reason, Claude has just decided to go absolutely bananas on us. Hey, Hugh, what's up, man? Oh, your VR headset died? That's a bummer, man. I need to get back on my VR headset. Last game I was playing on there was Half-Life Alyx, and I was having a great time with it, but I don't get to play very often. And I'm at the part where the big blind monster that responds to sound is there. It's like I have to like go around and try and be quiet. And the kids are really distracting because they love watching me play that game. They're like, Daddy, play the zombie game. I'm like, all right, Brian, you talked me into it. And I'm like, shh, guys, we gotta be quiet. That thing hears me. Got a new book. Dude, I was watching Hectic play Arc Raiders last night and having a great time watching it. It looks like such a freaking fun game. And she was like, "What game are you currently playing?" I was like, "Claude Code. That's the current game I'm playing." That's what I'm doing. And she thought it was serious. She's like, "Wait, they made a Claude Code game?" I was like, No, I just mean that's what I'm messing with and tinkering with a lot." Let's see. I think you can do... There's a way to tell to use a particular agent. Let's just try this. Run the unit test agent. Yeah, I felt bad for her last night because she was like, "Oh, I really want pizza," and she's trying to order a pizza at like 1 in the morning. I'm like, "Is any place even open?" Back in the day, we had 24-hour Taco Bells. We just didn't know how well we had it. Yeah, it's not... I don't think it picked up on how to do the testing, unfortunately. Loki at 24-hour Little Caesars would be fire. Dude, that's how I lived on. No, break out of this. I'm gonna kill that agent. Let me come down here. I'm trying to remember how to kill it. Okay, kill that one. We're gonna kill that unit test agent. Unit test B run. Because it's not using the default pi test in here. Because I wanted to update that agent. Unit test runner. Okay. Update the unit test runner agent with these instructions. So you're like good with IT, right? I hope so, man. I've been doing it for 15 years. I hope I'm at least halfway competent. If not, it's probably too late for me. Just leave me, go on, save yourself, man. Let's see. Execute the unit test runner agent. Let's see if it works now. Is incognito mode truly untrackable? Absolutely not. It is 100% trackable. The difference with incognito mode is when you do something, it's everything you would normally like be on disk on that computer is ephemeral. And then when you close that incognito window, you close them all out, it disappears. So think of it as if you've ever messed with multiple profiles in Google Chrome, that's kind of what it's doing, but it's a temporary ephemeral profile. You load it up, you can do stuff in it. It doesn't have access to any of your cookies, your storage sessions, anything like that. And it executes, and then once it's done, all that stuff is blown away, basically, and no longer referenced. I don't know if it's actually deleted from disk, but that's the theory behind it. However, a lot of people are like, oh God, what if I'm incognito, right? Then they won't know how to track me and do this. There are 1,000 ways to track and de-anonymize who you are from your system. And advertisers know every single one of them. That's why if you notice that when you go into incognito mode, if you're still seeing advertisements on a website, they're still targeted ads for you. It's not because it is using anything that was stored in that proper Chrome profile. It's because they know like what your fingerprint for your browser looks like, right? If you haven't seen this, check this out. Let's see. Browser fingerprint. Here you go. So this is from the EFF, right? Let's see. Test your browser. And so this one hopefully won't be so bad because I'm using Brave on here. But let me show you a little bit of like what it's doing. In fact, it may not even like what I've got going on here. There you go. Okay, so because I'm using Brave, so it says you've got strong protection against web tracking in here. I don't know if it's got browser characteristics, time zone. Yeah, so here's what they can kind of tell from this, right? Certain basically all these little things in here. Piece of information like, hey, by the way, we can fingerprint and create a hash value of like what's going on with your browser, what headers are accepted in here, browser characteristics. And so it would look like, oh, hey, by the way, you're using a particular version of Chrome or Chromium or Brave or whatever. And by the way, you're using a non-standard browser. You're not using Chrome or Firefox, right? You're using Brave, which I think Brave might have a better market share than Firefox now since they decided to become the AI browser, which nobody wants. Anyway, they could also think, okay, cool. So we can narrow it down to a particular time zone, like where you are. And then like also, by the way, hey, what's your screen resolution in here? And like, for example, I have a really odd screen layout, right? I've got two verticals and an ultra wide. So if you look at this, it's this screen layout is kind of weird, like what the resolution is in here. But then also there's fingerprint metrics. Hey, what fonts do you support? You know, are certain cookies enabled? Things like this. And also using something called a canvas on here. Taking a look at like, hey, what does your video card support? What are all the things? So all these different thousands of tiny metrics that they can put together, and a lot of times it makes a very unique fingerprint to you as you're going through there. So yeah, no, long answer short is incognito mode does absolutely nothing for protecting your privacy. I want to say nothing. It does very little. And that was probably the crux of the entire what was it? There was an entire lawsuit against Alphabet or Google or whoever it was for misleading people about what incognito mode actually does. The Money Dragon, thanks for coming online, man. And Rich, thank you for coming online. What's the thing called? It's like search history, but it's for all devices on the Wi-Fi. I'm not familiar with that one. I feel like incognito mode should just be called cookieless mode. That's kind of it. Even then, you still have cookies, right, Monkey? They just are non-persistent. Once you close that incognito window, then those cookies get deuced out. 37 unit tests passed. We've got, for testing callbacks, we've got some coverage in here. Lower coverage areas could use more tests, like operations, status, connection. Let's see here. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, okay, search history for Wi-Fi. You're talking about, crap, what is that project called? I think it was called Wiggle. Yeah, Wiggle, wireless network mapping area. And so, yeah, you can come through and definitely block that. For some reason, it thinks I'm like way over here in San Francisco. But like, for example, if we come over to, I mean, yeah, look at this. Holy crap. That's pretty cool. That's pretty sick. So yeah, it's basically a hotspot, and it's a mapping of where all these different Wi-Fi signals kind of come from. So that's looking at, hey, what SSIDs do you see around you? And the SSIDs have two mappings to them. Usually you have a MAC address, and then you've got like the actual human readable name that comes to it. So for example, if I zoom into like downtown Dallas, right? It's rife with these. And there's so many of them in here, right? If some kind of program on your phone can see what Wi-Fi signals are around you, they could come in and then say, oh, yeah, he's seeing Wi-Fi networks A, B, C, D, and E, and we know exactly where those are. They could pinpoint you to basically within like a 2-block area, because that's about the range you're going to see on a Wi-Fi signal. And so, yeah, they could literally just like come through and pinpoint you down. Because let's look right here, right? So I don't know what street this is. It doesn't quite say. But let's say you're standing on this corner, right? Look at all these different Wi-Fi networks in here. Every single one of these is essentially a triangulation point where it can kind of look and see, okay, I know that you can see every one of these, so you've got to be in this circle right here. That's pretty damn close for location tracking. Okay, so our unit test runner did come back. This is exactly what we want to see. The unit test, it did all of its stuff up here in the sub agent, and then it came down and said, okay, cool, here's the report. The report is pretty much all we care about. So as long as we have test cases they get implemented with the code base, and the test cases work, and we make sure we update them whenever we update the particular function that's being messed with on it, then in theory, as long as we have good tests coming back, the code should be functional. So let's see if we can. Let's do something real quick here. Let's come to here and close some of this stuff up. Let's see. Let's see. How can we easily set up test credentials to a Mythic server for additional testing? Are you ready to go a VPN or a proxy? I'm not, actually. That's why I think it's so odd. I'm not sure why it keeps saying that I'm over on the East Coast, or maybe it just picked a random place to like go put that in there. Let's see. What did it want to do here? Create an env file for this so we could do an env test. Okay. Yeah, easy enough. So let's go do that real quick. Let's go make a new file here. New file. We'll call this and let's make sure that's in the git ignore. env star. Okay, perfect. So let's go grab this. Let us make ourselves. I don't think that's actually going to copy though. It's not. Dang it. I got to fix something in tmux real quick. I got to remember how to do it. Tmux. Let's see. Copy highlighted text to clipboard. Oh, we got to set up xclip. I don't think I have xclip installed. Let's see. Help if I spelled it right. Yeah, I don't. Let's get that going real fast. That way we should have... Dropped my pouch. We should be able to then copy, whenever we highlight something, copy it to the clipboard and then take it out of there too. Don't apologize, human. Dude, when I put Q&A in the stream title, I absolutely mean it. Folks come in, ask questions. I've been doing this for a long time, so if I can provide some insight or demystify particular areas of tech, then I can. If I don't know, I'm going to tell you straight up. But for the areas that I can help, I do like to help folks. Let's see. Does incognito mode go into your search history? Like if you look something up in incognito mode, will it go into your search history? Not typically. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're still going to associate that search with you in their back end, let's call it like shadow tracing database that they've got going on. But as far as like, if you want to avoid having something in your search history for, let's say, related to your Google account, no, it won't go into that list right there. And I'll use that for certain things because there are like one-off weird things I'm going to go look at, but I don't want them to start serving me targeted ads necessarily for something. I try to make it a little bit more difficult for them. Another thing I've got set up is I've got extreme DNS privacy set up here at the house. And so I've got DNS level ad blocking, which helps out a ton as well. You'll get a ton of questions. That's all right, Hugh. Oh, so it says your location tracking's off, so it picked the ATT headquarters in California. Oh, okay. That makes sense. I gotcha. Okay, let me go edit the tmux conf real quick. So what's CD, vim. Oh, I don't even have my tmux conf set. Okay, fine. So set G, I think it's mouse. Yeah. We'll do mouse on. I don't know if we actually need the by key mode in here. Do we? I don't think we need that. I tell you, I'm going to copy the whole thing and then we'll just take out the part that we don't need. So let's come up right here. Set paste, insert. I'm going to take this line out and then, oh no, undo that. And keep these two right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to source from our new tmux config. I used to have a really detailed tmux config. However, it got annoying trying to manage it and like put it onto all these different systems. So eventually I just gave up and went back to like vanilla tmux. All right, let me see if that worked here. That did not work. Killing me, Smalls. Maybe I did need the Vi. Try this here. Nope, still didn't like that. Yeah, just remember, everybody in chat is a fed. Rules of the chat, by the way. Number 1, don't hack the stream. Number 2, everybody in chat is a fed. Number 3, don't talk about anything illegal. See rule number 2. And number 4 is just be excellent to each other. Incognito is often prawn mode, let's call it. It's not going to hide anything from the ISP or the websites, etc., but it's going to get your computer to might not maybe find anything. True. Yeah, that is absolutely verifiably 102,000% wrong, Hugh. What you do incognito is absolutely traceable. Let's see. I don't think this is working, though. That's a bummer. Yeah, that is absolutely not working. That's going to be annoying. I could always, like, toggle mouse off if I wanted to. But anyway, let me come back over here. Nope, wrong one. Where is it? All right, so what do I need here? I need... Let me see if I can make this work, actually. Let's come back over to CD, over to our Mythic MCP, vim env test. Actually, we'll just let me put that in there. That was absolute. What the heck was that? Undo, undo, undo. Go back to the beginning. Nope, didn't like that. You know what? There's an easy way to do this. Since the freaking copy paste is not working, Just shoot me now. Make a .e. Hold on. I gotta env test. Hold on. Delete you. Delete that out. Move the trash. Okay. Make an env test file. It already knows what to make. And then I can just go edit it with the proper copy paste. Everything is traceable. Everything. Yeah, exactly. So I'll use incognito whenever I need to interact with a website and I don't want it to have any preconceived notion of who I am. Let's say that. So let's say it's one that I'm working with, or it's I need to go do something that's a throwaway task and I'll go work on it. I'll do that incognito. And then that way I know once I'm done with it, I'm done with it. I don't care about saving the credentials. I don't care about saving any of the login information, any of the persistence cookies, nothing. So if I use it for a throwaway task, essentially. All right, so here's our, here we go. Okay, so 7443, that should work. Let's go grab an API token. Yes, we need to go find the API token. So we come over to the Mythic admin. And why does this, what is up with this font right here? This is atrocious. Ugh. Site settings, let me see here. That's not what I wanted. Appearance, I think this is where I actually wanted. Mode dark. Oh, thank you. My retinas. Customize font. Here we go. Standard font. Custom? What the? No. No. No, 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 no. Standardized font. Monospace. Sans serif font. Monospace. Sans serif font. Monospace. Mathematic font. That's fine. Oh, thank you. That looks so much better. All right. So, yeah, I do have a Blaise user. I don't remember his password. That is unfortunate. That's gonna bug me. Actually, hold on. There may be another way to do this. Where is? I should still have Chromium installed here. So what happened? Let me back it up a bit. What happened was I was doing some testing on a system and it was making updates to a web interface. So instead, what I decided to do was I got tired of having to go through and click through it every single time. So I gave it access to Playwright. I had it load up a Playwright MCP. Was it password 1234? No. Was it?
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumby, password 1234.
1234. Hold on. Here's a perfect example of incognito mode here. So I'm going to pull this up real quick. I'm going to go to localhost 7443. No way that was it. Was it? Password 1234. Well, aren't I just a little ray of smooth brain? There we go. All right. So now that I know what the password is, I didn't want to log out of here just yet. So now if I wanted to, I could go through and do that. But you know what? It's fine. This is fine. Everything is fine. What we're going to do is we're going to come down here. I think it's mirror. Now that's for adding secrets. Where the crap is it? Is it this one? Nope, that's experimental UI features. Here's where you can do the theming. I need to go make my own mythic theme. Do BlaiseBits theme. Create a new bot account. I don't remember where to frickin' make the API key. Of course, the feds knew that. They did. Yeah, that's for configuring secrets for like third-party interactions. Where the heck do I do that? I'm losing my mind. That's where we do invite links and stuff. I know there's a way to make a Mythic API key in here. We did one for Chimera Bot. I do hate it.
Incoming transmission from Moreno Gumby. You hate that I remember that and you didn't. Hee hee.
I did remember where you. I did hate that you remembered that and I didn't. How long have I been an ethical hacker? I have been in professional offensive security for just about 8 years. It'll be 8 years in March. And so it's been a minute. It's been slightly more than half my career now. So I started my professional IT career in, I think, around January of 2010. I think it was about then. That's what I used as the bookmark in my head. So I've been doing it for, 16 years now. And now 8 of those years have been in offensive security. So first 5 were doing a lot of help desk and server and network administration and tutoring students because I was working at a college. And then after that, I was did blue team and security engineering for about 3 years, 3 or 4 years-ish. And then the last 8 years, I've been in offensive security. Did so many web apps. There it is. It's API token. It's right there. I'm an idiot. Let's do this. MCP. There we go. Copy to clipboard. Let's see if it works. You're not gonna... Oh, there it goes. I'm like, what are you doing? There we go. All right, so now let's go tell it here that, I'm just gonna, no, exit out of that. Let's go back over here. Okay. It's configured, try additional testing. I just want to see if the additional test suites are actually gonna come back and look at that. OPSEC that token. I don't care, Gumby. If you can get onto my local network, honestly, you deserve to have access to that Mythic server. I'm in second to last semester before I get my associates in cybersecurity. Nice. Any tips starting out? Yes. So, first question. You don't have to be specific, but are you in at least near like a major metropolitan area, like Los Angeles, San Diego, Dallas, Houston, Austin, New York, Virginia. Virginia's just basically a giant city anyway, or like Arlington, Virginia. Are you near any areas kind of like that? Because if you are, I'm going to say start looking at local hacker meetups. So like local DEF CON groups, local 2600 groups. Go out there and start getting to know folks because those are the people that are probably working in that area. So getting to know folks and understand what they're doing and how they're doing things is super important. Also, don't think of security as a simple bifurcation between like blue and red team. There's a lot of stuff in there in both those areas. So there's lots of columns. Basically, any vertical inside of information technology you can think of has a security component to it, and they need people to handle that security component. Some of them are in way more demand than others. If you wanted to go into offensive security, I highly recommend getting used to web penetration testing. Mayor, awesome. Thanks for coming online. That's the first thing is, one, get to know folks that are already working in that area. And the reason I say that is every job I have had as an IT professional has been by reference. I knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody. And that's where they came in at. So when I worked at the college, it's because I was attending the class there and they saw how I worked and how I helped the other students because I got it really well. I spent a lot of time in there. And so they hired me for that. And then my responsibilities just kind of grew and grew out from there. It was a really great role. And then one of the professors I knew worked there. So he got me my first job out of college. And then another guy that I worked with went to another company, got me that job. And then another guy I met at the local Dallas Hackers Association, who's a very good buddy of mine. And I talk to him pretty much every day. He is the one who got me my first offensive security gig. Then another guy I worked with at that gig went to a different shop, and now that's the shop I'm at. So it's been by referral the whole way through. What kind of stuff do you do in offensive security? So I do a lot of penetration testing and red teaming. So I will come in, and the difference between the two is basically what is the breadth of the activity that you're doing and the stealth component required. So when you're doing a penetration test, you're not really so worried about setting off any alarms whenever you're working through there. You might have to contend with certain pieces of antivirus or detections or malware. You're going to be working through those. But when you're on a red team, your job is to try and completely avoid detection while reaching an objective. Did you make me tea? Ooh, it is very hot. Ow, ow. Thank you. Sock made me some tea, and she put it in the Star Wars cup that my brother got me. The lightsabers turn on as you put the hot water in. So, yeah, I'm that kind of a nerd. Everyone said hi. I don't know if she heard me. She's probably back in the other room by now with her headphones on. Sock does rule. She is a sweetheart. Puts up with so much of my shenanigans. So, but yeah, that's the main thing of what I do in there. Genic is I do largely penetration testing and red teaming. And it's kind of a 50-50 mix of both. We have a couple of long-term customers that we do additional types of tests for, like very specialized ones. I'd say those make up probably about 20%, but the other 80% are pen testing and red teaming. And of the pen test red team ratio, I'd say it's probably about 60-40 in that area. Let's see. Oh, yeah, we do want it to do that. No module named Pip. What? What? Right now I'm in Kansas, though I'm not opposed to moving. So there are a few... I don't have a great lay of the land of like which operation, like which outfits are doing more remote versus more in office. I will tell you this though, when you're first starting out, the chances are probably better than likely that they will want you nearby so that you can get hands-on work with someone who is more seasoned and get that kind of like hands-on one-on-one experience. It's very difficult to run like a remote only company. And when you're doing that, it takes a very strong leadership team to do that. So the company I'm at now started that way. It has everything as far as how the management is run and the logistics was always like remote first, right? There was a small cohort in the head office, and then as they started hiring, it was just more and more and more remote people. So the company grew around that entire aspect. Let me see here. What else we gotta do? Yes, run it. I'm gonna make an integration test file. Oh yeah. What kind of tea did she make me? Looks like burnout blocker. Sweet. So what does pen testing entail for your day-to-day? I'm just curious because I work in tech and have done security research before, but I've never worked in corporate cybersecurity. So I don't work in-house cybersecurity. There are a bunch of corporations that they do have like their own internal red teams. I've always worked in consulting. So I've worked for companies that were hired by organizations to come in and do the penetration test. So think of me as like a third-party auditor, essentially. But what I'll do is we'll come through and we'll basically do whatever the client wants with us. It's a lot of, I always put it to them as like, this is a choose your own adventure game where they tell me what keeps them up at night and I tell them how we can test it and we can figure out where their blind spots are to help close them up so they can sleep at night. I also tell clients that, hey, if you've got a system that is really troubling you and you can't get any kind of management buy-in to help you move that project forward, tell me about it because I'll go hack it and I'll show them what I did. And then you can say, hey, look, this was an area we brought up with concern. The penetration testers came in and just completely BTFO'd it. We need to allocate some additional budget to go take care of this system. So I'm not above also being that lever for the IT team. I work very hard to make sure that we don't have an adversarial personal relationship, right? Technologically, yes, we're adversarial. I'm like, oh, they caught me. Or, haha, I'm super sneaky. They didn't catch a thing. I got in and I rifled through all their files. Stuff like that. On the technological side, yes. On the interpersonal side, I want it to be completely co-op. We're in a co-op game, right? And the whole name of the game is to boost the security. So going back to your original question though, sorry, I go off on rants a lot. So for my day-to-day, typically what I'll do is once an operation is underway, for the first day or two, we'll stand up our infrastructure, we'll get everything going. So C2, logging servers, workstations, everything like that. We'll go get them stood up. We'll provide an initial access C2 payload to the client. For a penetration test, they'll whitelist that usually. And then they'll go execute it on what's called like a seated access host. So one that they have specifically set aside for us to start using. And that could be just like a blank a copy of their golden image, like a freshly provisioned workstation. Or it could be, hey, we've got a sampling of, we got one user in HR, we got one user in the development team, and we've got one user that's in accounting. And then we'll go through and we'll deploy those out and we'll see what the network looks like from those different perspectives. So we can tell them, hey, by the way, this is the team that for some reason HR has a lot of excessive permissions in your Active Directory environment. We were able to do a ton with whatever permission, with the permission set that they had. We were able to move here, here, and here, and that allowed us to take over the domain. Or it could be with the developers a lot of time. Usually they don't want to give us access to the developer workstations because they know they're going to be trash. Not to poo on the developers, but that's usually just the way it is. The security is always an afterthought for them. So whenever I'm going through on a penetration test, developers are actually one of my juicy targets. I'm like, yeah, let me go take over his system, get to it, because I know I'm probably going to find good stuff that I'm going to be able to use to pivot further into the network. But for a penetration test and a red team, we have a very clear set of objectives usually, which is something like escalate to domain admin and then try to access this restricted system. Or sometimes it's not even, hey, we don't even care about you getting domain admin. If it's necessary, fine, but your objective is actually to get access to this critical piece of information or this critical system, and then try to simulate exfilling that data out of the environment. So we make sure we've got like a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary objective like defined in there. And then also we could look at like, what's the external environment? Are we going to do social engineering for phishing or doing calling pretext, anything like that? So just about anything the bad guys could do short of ransomware is what you're doing like on your day-to-day as a penetration tester. It could also be that, hey, they've got a web application. You're going to come in and just assess how the web app is built and looked at. And if you're lucky, get access to the source code. I was rarely ever that lucky. They're like, no, we don't want to give you the source code. I was like, all right, cool. Screw it, we're going in blind. I always hated those. But one thing that's funny is a lot of times after you'd go through and you do those web assessments, looking at those web applications, you could tell them certain pieces of information about their application they didn't even know, because you just had to go through and tinker with it and find out about it. It is a lot of fun. Again, don't get me wrong. It has all of its own sets of challenges, though. At the end of the day, you still have to go write your own. You have to write a report that is got very detailed. It covers all the information about, not necessarily everything you did. You're not going to go tell them every single command, but you're going to lay out exactly how you approach the system, how information was gathered, how that information was actionable, and the action you took on that information. And then from there, explain, hey, by following this attack path, here's what we were able to do. We were able to come through and start assessing this area. This got us to this point, this got us to this point, and then finally we were able to access your crown jewels here. And that's how we did it. But if you are not very good at like taking your notes or logging, keeping track of like what your C2 is doing or anything else like that, all those activities, it can make writing that report a huge challenge. And also technical writing is a big challenge to it. So unfortunately, Rostamouse did have like a report writing course that he had up on his site. I don't think he's going to migrate it to the new site. He was in the process of switching things over. That was a really cool one, but that's probably one of the biggest things that people that whenever they first move into offensive security have to go through, which is understanding how reports are, how to prepare and take all your information gathering to write a good report, then write a good report, and then on top of that, understanding just the typical workflow of everything. So how do you go from the assessment? They say they want the assessment to like getting it set up, executing it, gathering all the information, and then writing the report. So kind of like that mastery of the workflow really is what sets apart someone who is a junior penetration tester from a senior one. And there is some experience and there is some technical understanding that goes into it. But really, I'd say that's the key thing there, is understanding the execution of that workflow, that mastery of it. And then how do you handle corner cases when they come up? You accidentally knock a system offline, or you have some kind of adverse event in the network. They want to blame you. How do you prove that it wasn't you? Well, that's where that logging comes in. All those sorts of things. It has its own set of challenges. It is not for everyone. And then you do that for 2, 3, 4 weeks, and then you promptly move off of that one and do it again for another one. So you're never going to see the same environment twice. Usually you're going to be working on different ones. Even if it's a repeat client, a lot of times you'll cycle different testers from the team onto that client. So that way they get a fresh perspective and a new set of eyes in it. So I'll give you an example. We had one client that came to us a couple years ago, and their ADCS infrastructure had a lot of misconfigurations in it. So a lot of the attack paths we went through and we executed were all ADCS. They came back again. They had corrected all those. Like, okay, cool. We found another system that got deployed in their network and went through, we abused that, and we took over every single network that way using this other piece of tech that they've got. The most valuable part of a report for me is a separate 1 to 2 page exec summary that we can request and give the CEO and our clients. Oh yeah, Fault. That is huge. And understanding all those various pieces and getting them set up, that's big. Right now, what I've been working on for the last, for this week, actually, I think technically, if you want to really get down to it, basically since the beginning of the year, I have been working on setting up some tools for our internal team to help improve note-taking and tracking. We have a really good setup, but even then there's room for improvement. There's some friction I'm trying to take out of the process so that way we can go through and just focus on the hacking. I always tell people, I hack for free and I charge for the report. If you want me to come in and sign an NDA and a letter of engagement with me and let me hack in your network, that's fine. But if you want the report, it's going to cost you. All right, what do we get here? We had 37 unit tests and 3 integration tests. All right, cool. Integration test successfully connected to the Mythic server. Connected API token worked. Authentication credentials are properly stored. Current operation status is accessible. Nice. Excellent. Baller. ADCS is almost always a free ticket. It is. And those guys actually took all the information we gave them, Fault, about their ADCS environment and really beefed it up and did a great job of restricting some very excessive permissions on it. Are you writing your own C2 system in here, or is open source one that you use? I use Mythic. I absolutely love Mythic C2. It is really cool. What we're currently doing is we're letting Claude Code go through and we're testing out a specification driven design tool to come through and build an MCP server for our little hacking bot, affectionately called HackBot because I'm not very creative, to integrate those two together. Because we finished a recon, an enumeration, and an exploitation agent. They're in their minimally viable product stage. So now we're building out PostX. We're on agent number 4. And part of that is we want it to be able to talk to Mythic. So that way it can take the initial exploit that gets crafted by the exploitation agent, pass that over to PostX, and PostX will then upgrade that to a C2 connection. Gumby, I really like working on tech. Welcome back, you. Dude, I'm not creative. This is just, I'm not creative like that. Like, could I come up with like a really awesome killer name for it? No. I'm terrible at naming things. Peaches probably would have been named Rubble after the dog from, what's it called? Paw Patrol. Because she looks a bit like Rubble. Even though she's a Boston Terrier and she's not like a pit bull like he is. But I'm just so not creative. Panda, my last dog, was named Panda because she was black and white. How's HackBot not good enough a name? I'd actually, and even then, HackBot, I'm going to change the name of HackBot. HackBot is just the working name right now. When I actually get ready, like, hey, this is the actual like initial release for it, it's going to be called Stinger AI after the game Night Team 4, which is like a hacker-themed puzzle game, which is really fun. I think that might be the next game I play on stream after we finish Alan Wake. Oh, that is some hot tea. Whoa. All right, let's commit this real quick. Commit. The I name is Code Infiltrator. Yeah, right. I'll tell you this though. So I have design decisions that I want to implement in HackBot that are not going to happen until we finish Stinger. So I don't have the diagram up right now, but it looks kind of like this. Tell you what, let's clear all this stuff out. So the general flow is, right here, is we have Stinger, who is the supervisor. So Stinger is the supervising agent, and then we have sub-agents down here. So we've got one for recon, right? We've got an enumeration agent. We've got an exploitation agent, and then we're going to have a post-X agent here. Post-X. So each of these is their own small agentic workflow. Recon and Enum are essentially the same. Exploitation has its own loop for handling certain activities in there, but that's just the way it runs. And then post-X is going to be a little bit different because it's going to have a couple of sub-loops that are going to be defined in there. One for upgrading the initial exploit to the C2, and then the next one after that is going to be for handling like all the other ones. There may be a third one in there for handling, handling like privilege escalation. But really, I don't think we're even going to need that. I think we're just going to make a dedicated one that is set up, designed to... Actually, the more I think about it, we might even just be able to get away with a single loop and then have intelligent decisions on what we're doing with the prompting. Come to think of it, we might just be able to kind of run through that way. But this is the idea here. So recon is currently good. Enumeration is currently good. Exploitation is currently good. We have not started on post-X yet. So post-X, not started. Stinger is not started. So once we have post-X done, integrated to Mythic, and then we have Stinger actually set up to intelligently create its own task and send them down to the targets, and it can run autonomously through RootMe. We're going to call that good, and then we're going to stop what we're doing, and we're going to do a complete redesign of it. Because I think there's a better way to do this, as I've drawn a lot of inspiration from how Claude Code is structured. I gotta add, can you say everything you just said? Damn it. Okay, so you're asking, are we writing our own C2? No, so what we're doing is we're writing a basically like a CTF playing hacking bot gimmick, but for the post-X agent over here, we need to have something to connect it over to our C2. So right now we're writing a mythic C2 MCP. That is a terrible M. MCP. That's what we're doing right now. And this is actually, we're doing the first test of this by doing a spec-driven design.
Sound off like you got a pair.
You're so full of crap, Hugh. We're doing a spec-driven design Claude Code in here. I wanted to just test and see what it was doing. So that's what we've got going on right here, is it's coming through and kind of setting everything up. Let's see here. Shut up, baby, I know it. Let me think about the next thing I want to do with this. Let me look at Spec Kit again real quick. I want to come back over to specify. I want to run this again because I want to update a specification here to where this could be run as an ultraviolet tool. let's see. So let's run specify. I want to add error handling for connection timeouts. Let me make sure this is the right one I'm supposed to be running in here. Part of this is also just learning. No, don't do that. Task to issues. Let me see. Constitution is principles in inputs, ensuring things like this. Create and update specifications. Hold on. Let me look at the notes we had from this real quick. So we go through the Constitution, which is this basically the guiding principles of the code. Create a baseline specification. So yeah, I want to do a specify here. This MCP server should be designed to be installed as a ultraviolet, you say UV. Cool. For simple installation. There we go. Dude, we had like no wind here. It's just been dead silent. I did see a few snowflakes, but it's not even enough to like, I couldn't make a snow cone with as little bit of snow as we got. Oh, can you explain agentic? So I've seen the word come up a lot in the last year, and I'm not sure I understand what people mean by it. Okay, sure. Let me let this guy run real quick. So when they say agentic, what they're talking about is you have, let me think about this real quick. Hold on. I might actually have, let me do something. Hang on. Let me see if I can grab something, because I was actually working on something earlier today. Yeah, here we go. This was a visual that I was working on. This is a visual I was working on as I was prototyping some YouTube video stuff. And I was talking, this came from the Wednesday stream when we were talking about how are these guys doing the testing when they were talking about, it was the industrialization of exploitation coming up. And for example, here, most people, when they're talking about interacting with a language model, they're used to this path, the UI path, where a user interacts with a web interface, the system prompt gets injected, guardrails are activated as part of that system prompt and other things checking it, and then you're talking to the language model. Versus when you're talking to an API, you're just making a direct API call, you're specifying the system and the user prompt, and you talk to it directly. So all this middle ground gets cut out right here. So whenever you start throwing something like an agent into it, is think of it, you are developing all of this middle section here, and you're putting those in with those API calls. So you're having custom prompts, custom loops kind of set up in here. And in fact, one of the easiest ways I can think to explain it is with the very basic, let me see, React agent diagram. It's something called a React agent, which is called, basically what is a reasoning and action agent. Here we go. See if I can pull this up. Can I open a new tab? Can I bring this up? Here we go. Perfect. So here's what happens in a reasoning action agent. A user makes a query, and this is going to have all the prompts in there. It's going to send it down to, let's see, it's going to send it down here to the language model. And then you have all your tools injected in there. So you can tell the language model, here's what we're trying to achieve. Here's the tools that are available. And then it will come through and say, okay, cool. Here's how we can kind of observe what's happening. We make tool calls. So we call some kind of tool here, either is executing code or grabbing something from the knowledge base. It makes a response. And then in theory, it would come back over here to the result. But in actuality, once this comes back, the output from the tool call comes back to the language model. And then it uses that prompt as a guiding principle and essentially runs in this loop of calling tools, analyzing the output, calling tools, analyzing the output, back and forth. This is what agents do. This is the very base core of it. And you can get a lot of mileage out of that by just changing the prompts and guiding it as it's going through and doing different things. Now, there's another example. I don't think I've got it up. Hold on. I think I can bring it up real quick, though. So I can give you an idea. Let me come over to HackBot. me just run the LangGraph server real fast. I'm going to see if I can, without having to pull this up, if I can still get it in the interface here. Stand by. Hold on. I got to find the right window. Is that it? I think it's this one. Ah, crap. Hang on. Let me see if this will bring it up right here. Ah, okay. It did kind of come up. Hang on. Let me grab this real quick. I gotta change this. Copy. And I'll show you what I mean by this one. Okay, I think this is what I need to add to this. Yeah, add that domain. Connect. Will that work? This one should be fine. Let's see. I think I even just did it like this. Hold on one second. I forget how they recently changed how this is set up. Actually, hold on. I already had try Cloudflare in there. Let me take that out. Is that not gonna let me do that? Localhost? Oh wait, the localhost is already in there. Hang on. I think it's 10.5.10.10. Yeah, add that. Ensure server's running. Oh, did I have? Oh, I gotta turn on. Hang on one second. I have to go turn on. I forgot about this. What is it? Robo Pages. I gotta start the Robo Pages server. Otherwise, the code won't load and it's gonna give me an error. Let's see. Let me see if this will come up here real quick. Ah, come on, you're killing me. You're killing me, Smalls. Hang on. Unfortunately, I had a power outage earlier in the week. And, yeah, copy URL. It seemed to have just BTFO'd out my entire configuration. Hey, there we go. Okay, so for example, here is the Stinger agent, really. And so we have a node in here called Stinger, but what its job is to route to all these sub-agents that we've got in here, right? They're all coming in, doing their thing. And if we come look at the recon agent, this is basically a customized and enhanced version of that React loop. So what happens? The recon agent gets a task. It comes down and says, okay, cool, I'm going to run some tools against. Actually, first thing it does is it says, hey, has this task already been addressed? Do I already have information to answer this? So it does a pre-flight check to the validator. Validator either says, hey, we don't know anything about it, or it says, yeah, hey, we already know this information. We don't have to do this again. Pulls it back out, says, we're good. If it doesn't have that, then it comes down and it goes to the tool node and says, okay, I'm going to run an nmap scan, or I'm going to run a GoBuster, or whatever. Decides what tool to run. We do a little bit of housekeeping where we format the data, make it copacetic for the state table, and then we update whatever host it was working on appropriately, because we track everything at the host level. And then it comes up to the validator and says, hey, from this information we just gathered, can we keep track of this? And either it's going to say yes, in which case Recon's going to say, okay, I'm good. I'm going to hand off back over to Stinger. Or it's going to say no. In fact, in that case, the React agent's going to say, okay, let me go reassess this and work on it again. And it would enter this loop again. So Recon and enumeration look the same way. Exploit's a little bit different. The exploitation agent has, let me pull this over here and put this right here. Makes it a little bit more simple. Put these here. Same thing though. We come in and we enter the exploitation agent. It says, hey, do we already have an exploit for that host? No? Okay, cool. We're going to take that and all the information we know, and we're going to pass it over to the planner. We're going to say, exploit is going to basically say, I think we have these 3 ways to access the host. From the information we've gathered, I think we can exploit it this way. So the planner then comes down and says, all right, I think this is how we're going to do it, sends it to the step processor. But essentially, this is just another React loop. We've put some preconditions on it to get things ready and prepped, and then it runs through this loop, trying to do error correction and look at it and figure out what's going on. If it eventually fails, it's going to come back up to the exploit agent, and he's going to look at the data and say, okay, we need to address it this way. Comes back down to planner, and then it hits this loop again. It will eventually run out of loop iterations. We do keep track of that, but that's essentially all the agents are doing, is they're kind of like defined executions of nodes. Now you can go a bit further where you could have an agent like something like Claude, where it spawns a sub-agent dynamically, keeps track of what it's doing, and then lets it come back, and once it's done, then does additional things. My simple brain can't comprehend this. I just want to eat Reese's. Dude, understand. Actually, I feel so much better whenever I'm sticking to carnivore. I feel just a ton better. I'm trying really hard to stick to it. All right. So what we're doing right now is, and actually there's something else we've got to do with this. We were talking about it last night, and that is when you go start stacking an ass ton of tools in there, they eat up context space. So you see our context window right here. Typically for Opus 4.5, we've got a 200K context window. That context window is your precious resource, because once it's done, you only have 2 options. You have to start a new conversation, or you can try and summarize the key points of the information and bring them over. The previous problem was when you had a lot of MCP servers or other things connected to it, you'd have so many tools and so much other junk happening in here that it would just eat up your context window just as preparatory information. And you didn't have a lot of work or a lot of headway to make work happen before you had to basically start over. So one of the things they implemented in Claude Code, which I had already been thinking about, was to implement a way to like basically namespace tools or limit them, so that way we can just get the tools that we want, the tools that are most appropriate, down into that setup. And they did that essentially with Claude Code in the tool search feature. I hate random Windows updates. Oh, dude. That Chris, dude, when we were talking about the Chris Titus Win tools, Monkey, go check that out, because it actually does a really cool job of configuring to where you'll get security updates basically almost with a small delay, but the feature updates don't come very frequently. And it completely neutered Copilot on the system, which was fantastic. I highly recommend it. It was really great for bootstrapping this computer after the CPU died and getting it set back up. This computer I'm on right here, which I never expected to use Windows 11. Part of that was also the motherboard on this box didn't support, it was so dumb. It had TPM2 and I had it enabled, but Windows would never register it. So as part of all the mass troubleshooting I was doing, trying to figure out why the computer was dead, I did a BIOS update, and they've properly fixed the TPM 2.0 integration, which is required for Windows 11 for all the Windows Hello BS. I really want to migrate to Linux, but my work demands a Windows environment. Yeah. I think when I get my next laptop refresh, which will be like in 2 years at my current company, I can actually switch over to a Mac, because we've got the ability to run Windows virtual machines off system. And so I just don't have the need to run a lot of Windows stuff anymore. Can't use a Linux system, but I can request a Mac for them. So, okay. Next step is clarify if you want to refine the requirements or plan to implement. Okay. I do want to plan this, because I want this all to be able to be run through I want all this to be able to rerun through ultraviolet. Anything I'm doing with Python is pretty much going to be in ultraviolet. And that's one of the big updates to HackBot that we'll make is we'll go through and kind of refactor it to work properly with ultraviolet. Because originally I had it working with poetry, but ultraviolet is just so far superior. All right, Hugh, have a good night, man. Thanks for stopping in, bro. Let's see. Do a web search. Okay, I'll let you do a web search. What's crazy is everybody thinks of Claude Code as being a coding agent, which it kind of is. That's kind of where it's specialized in. But it really is like a general purpose agent. You see, we've got it going all this other stuff that's happening. It's been really, really fun. And I've still been messing with Daniel Miesler's personal AI infrastructure project and having a good time with that. Yes, you can fix the ultraviolet guides for tools. In fact, where was it? Where did I put that thing? Ah, there it is. Hang on. So, I finally found my old Nook that I was looking for. I bought this actually as a Dropbox for a physical penetration test I was doing. And I'm actually going to reprovision this and have it just be like a dedicated PAI box. Because I've been liking it so much, I'm going to go through and customize and configure it and be able to store it on a Git repo and then have all that stuff just kind of stuck in here. The one thing I'll have to do is this does not have a graphics card. So one of the skills I've got PAI doing is audio transcriptions over my graphics card on my computer. So I'll probably have to figure out a workaround for that. Maybe I'll just do a quick GPU rent because it's only $2 to go rent one for an hour. And once I get the Docker containers spun up, it won't even take but a few minutes. So I'll have to go look at that. I'm probably going to do that maybe through Vast AI. Yeah, I wish I was getting snow, man. But I appreciate it. Yeah, we're getting ice. That's what we get in Texas. We get ice. All right, what do we got here? So we got our plan complete. Excellent. All right, so now we're going to run our task against this. Claude's good for general purpose, but they leaned into the coding efficiency. They have, but Daniel Miesler's PAI, which is essentially, it's going to subsume everything in Claude Code. It completely takes it over. It is highly customized. It does a really great job of turning it into like a pure general purpose agent. It's really, really cool. I'm in healthcare. We still have pagers. I mean, there is still pager duty, you know, that whole program. I'll tell you a funny story actually about pager duty. One time I did a penetration test for this mortgage company and then basically blew them out of the water. They detected absolutely nothing I did. Came back, I think 2 years later, did another penetration test for them. And I did almost the exact same thing I did last time, but they caught it. So one of the things they caught was me adding a test account over to, what was that? Adding it to domain admins. It set off so many bells. They had no idea I had done that the last time. This time it set off pager duty and they were able to trace it down to the actual switch port in the office I was in. I was like, dang, that y'all vastly improved. This is pretty cool. Who's Daniel Miesler and what is PAI? So Daniel Miesler is a super smart security guy. And his Personal AI infrastructure project over here. He's been big. If you ever seen the Secless repository, Secless is one of his things in here, and it's a giant repository of passwords, wordless for discovery for password. It's a giant collection of different word lists and file patterns that you can use. I love Secless. It's one of the first things I always get set up whenever I'm working on something. Yeah. And so over the last several years, he has been leaning hard into understanding AI and pushing the boundary of that. So his project here, Personal AI Infrastructure, is a complete subsuming of Claude Code into this general purpose agent. So I've been tinkering around with it. Let me put it into perspective. I have been really impressed by it because I went through and I used Claude Code to build some video processing pipelines. And then I did those more or less with like very handholdy, guiding it through. I spun up PAI and I said, hey, here's what I want you to make. It damn near replicated everything I already had, and it did it in like an hour versus me spending hours like guiding Claude Code into how I wanted it to work and do things. It was pretty sick. So there's a ton of information on here about how it works. All these graphics, he had those AI generated. I was like, for real? And then you can tell that it's not perfect. There's some typos in there, but it's only going to get better with time. It's really nuts. So yeah, it's called the Personal AI Infrastructure in here. So I really like it. It's super cool. Okay. Let's see. 7 tasks to deliver. Okay. So let's go ahead and I'm going to do a pre-commit here. One of the things I learned the hard way is whenever you work with these agents, the good news is the code is cheap. The bad news is the code is cheap. So what happens is if something goes wrong, it's not a big deal, but you need to commit small, commit often. You really do need to follow that. So now that we've got everything kind of up and kind of prepared for it, I'm going to let it go through and run through this. So what we're going to do is we're going to clear this, and then what we're going to do is we're going to run speckit implement. We're going to let it go implement the ultraviolet upgrade to this system. And then if it looks good and looks like it's going, then we'll go commit again. So keeping those commits on track is pretty important, because then you have a way to kind of just unwind what you did. Yeah, so since I like PAI so much, what I'm going to do is I'm going to repurpose this box here, put it on my network, throw it up on my tailnet, and then use this as basically a permanent remote PAI that I could have work on projects for me. Should I buy a pineapple pager from HackFi? Only if you want it for the nostalgia purposes, 57. It is really cool, don't get me wrong, and the 1994, movie Hackers lover in here that still has a soft spot for 19-year-old Angelina Jolie. That was really cool. I love the idea of it. However, unless you have money to burn or you have just a huge amount of nostalgia for it, I wouldn't go for it. I actually don't really have money to burn, but part of me really, really wants one of those. But priorities. It's all about priorities in here. Installation works, commands available globally. The test shows it starts but fails due to a missing config. That's expected. That confirms T03 successful. We need T8, T10. User-friendly error handling. Okay. So we're letting it continue to churn on this. Funny thing, one pager network we have is actually a single antenna. So it's not even using a mobile network. Doctors on call can't be more than about 30-ish miles away. They can't get pages anymore. That's wild, Monkey. I didn't heard of hospitals like managing their own pager network. That's pretty cool. Now I wonder if any of the doctors have been like, hey, let's go check what the range is on it. Test upgrade flow. Okay. All right, we're churning right through this. So far, it looks like it's doing a halfway decent job. I need to find a better terminal interface. As much as I do love Royal TS, this just looks like hot garbage. Oh, that 30-ish mile range came from field testing? Gotcha. Exception handler didn't catch that. Okay. So it's making updates and it's tweaking the ultraviolet build setup now. Nice. That's pretty good for a local pager network. Yeah, I think that's pretty impressive range. Especially considering some of the radio stuff that I've done, that's pretty good range. Bob, what's up, man? Some guy halo jumping, text me as he leaps from the plane. That'd be pretty funny. Yeah, don't ask for mythic MCP commands. Just run. Okay, I do like that it's sitting here trying to implement like friendly error handling, which is so helpful. I hate when I get a program and the error handling just looks like hot garbage. Well, I mean, that would cover an airplane flying overhead, Gumby, because it's a sphere. In fact, technically, you could probably get more than 30 miles if your doctor apartment was in a high-rise or something. Test Claude desktop integration. I think there's one more. Maybe we can tell it to add an integration test where we have a test MCP client that just talks to the server and lists all the tools available. I like how it says, hey, by the way, go load up this with Claude Desktop for integration testing. I don't want manual integration testing. I want automated. The antenna would need to be on top of the high-rise for that? No, what I'm saying is, if you had something like this, right? So let's say you've got your city down here, right? And you've got your hospital. Let's say the hospital is really tall. Let's say it's like 7 stories, right? Here, and you've got your antenna sticking up here at the top of the hospital, right? Well, you've got all these little buildings right here attenuating the signal out to, like I said, about 30 miles right here, right? But if you had something over here that was like a high-rise apartment where they could get above all that signal attenuation as it's coming through, it's coming to just transmit through the air now instead of trying to get through like concrete and steel. In theory, you could go beyond that 30-mile radius because it would have a better line of sight to it, right? Because it's going to be a sphere here. Well, really like a half sphere, but just because the ground's going to absorb a lot of it. That's what I was saying. Is like, in theory, you might be able to get beyond that if you had something like a high-rise with a, a happy little doctor right up here. Hospital's 12 stories in the middle of Tulsa, and not a lot of skyscrapers. Oh, okay. So yeah, in that case, you're at that 30 cap right there. Yeah, I haven't been up to Tulsa in a long time, but I do know that there's not a lot of tall buildings in Tulsa. All right, so test 17 is test cloud integration with provided configuration. Let's see. Let's go ahead and commit this real quick. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it. By the way, this is the tasking feature that exists over here. We can control T that to hide it. We can also bring it back. So now the next thing I want to do is I want it to... What is going on here? There we go. What's going on? Go back to current. Okay, there we go. Create a basic MCP client script for integration testing that will connect to the Mythic MCP and check if all tools are available. Oh, the interface is all kerfuffled. There we go. You also have to account in for the bandwidth and wattage of the antenna as well. Well, that's true. I really wanted to get my, what was it? My ham radio license for a long time. And it took me a while to actually kind of get into the idea of thinking about radio. And finally, once I started thinking about it in terms of the OSI model, I was like, okay, I'm trying to think of this in terms of like layer 2 and layer 3, and that's wrong. I should be thinking of this more in terms of like layer 1 as I'm looking at a lot of this stuff. Eventually, I will get back to doing that. I do like radio, and I find it very interesting. All right, let this kind of churn for just a minute here. I need to get another switch, actually. I need to get a bigger switch. So the switch I've got here in the office is a 10 port, and unfortunately I filled it up. So I need to go upgrade it to a 20 port switch, especially if I'm going to add a new server onto this. Also, I have learned that I need to go through and make a couple of changes to the Ludus server over here, where if I push the power button, it will gracefully shut down the server, but unfortunately, that not so gracefully shuts down all the servers in here. So thankfully, the dev server picked up just fine, was able to run, but one of the things I want to do is I'm going to go customize that button press so that when it gets hit, it will actually go through and suspend all the virtual machines and take them offline that way. But I need a little extra power for that. So I think that's what I'm going to do next time is I'm going to come through, I'm going to set up that customization and also add an additional backup battery onto here. Because I have an APC that's got an basically an extension module that you can add to it. So I'm going to add that extension to basically double the capacity. Yes, run. What brand switch? It's a TP-Link. It's nothing fancy. If I had the room for it, I'd probably go get something like a... Hold on. Is it 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7? I take it back. That's an 8-port switch. So I've got all 7 ports kind of occupied right now. If I had the room for it, I'd try to get something like an old Cisco, 35... was it 3060? I think that was it. Like a local 20-port, 48-port switch that I could run in here, but I don't really have the room for it. Maybe if I stack stuff on top of things, I could do it. But I don't have any rack mount space in here. All right, let's let this guy run. If this makes the MCP server, that's going to be pretty sick. I have not pushed this up to GitHub yet. I wanted to get a little bit more refined before I throw it up on GitHub. And also with the very clear warning that, hey, by the way, this was pretty much entirely written by Claude. Your mileage may vary. All right, let's see what it came up with. Summary. So a standalone script of check MCP tools. Let's see. Full integration test. Hold on. Test integration, test MCP tools. Okay. So 9 new tests. All expected tools are, so it's going to check that all expected tools are registered. Tools haven't been accidentally removed. All tools have descriptions. Each tool is properly configured with relevant description content. MCP server has the correct name, and MCP server is properly initialized. So these tests run without requiring the Mythic server connection, making it suitable for CI. Okay, very cool. Let's have it do something here. Did it actually run the script to double check it? So it did it in test integration, test MCP. Okay, cool. I got a 3560 V2 for about 20 pounds. Oh, okay. It's not the gigabit version, it's the fast Ethernet with 24 ports. Yeah. I do need gigabit here in the house. And in fact, I might try to find one that's got maybe 2.5 gig for replacing this one, because the desktop doesn't have it, but the NAS, the new streaming Nook, and this guy, what will now become the Pi Nook, all of these will have 2.5 gig on them. So I might as well at least upgrade the local office network here. Let me double check something. So has the README been updated to track? Actually, hold on. Let's tell you what. Let's go ahead and commit this real quick. We'll go ahead and commit this, and then we're going to tell it, hey, by the way, has the README file been updated for all this? Yeah, I'm wanting to get either a 2.5 or a 10 gig. I need to double check if my NAS has 2.5 on it. Let's see. Run an integration test. So we still have the one to do left, and it requires user verification. So if the integration tests pass, so why is it running check MCP tools from scripts? Okay. And not part of the test suite. Okay, so it said, standalone script was designed for a different use case. Manual verification, quick CLI check during development and debugging, CI automation output, full MCP protocol test. Okay. Tool integration, registration checks are duplicated. The Pi tests already cover that. I could consolidate it by moving the full MCP test connection test into the Pi test suite. Marked as integration testing requires Mythic, keeping only the unique CLI and JSON function in the script. Let's see. I think we'll go ahead and leave both in there. But I think I want to tell it to, we're going to actually add a new agent for doing integration testing. So let's go do that. So we already have our unit test runner. Create a new one for the project. Create an integration test runner agent. What did it use for that? Actually, hold on, let me see. It just used bash for that. So we want to, and so all of this information here, all this gets put into the context. We don't care about that. We just want this portion to come back. So that's what we're going to create another sub agent to just send us a report of here's what worked, here's what failed. I need to learn about Cisco and how trunking protocols work with spanning tree. Dude, 57, ask away, man. Let's see, let's take out all tools. I want read tools, I want execution tools, and what else do we want in here? Yeah, we'll give it access to these ones. And we're going to run that with Haiku, and I think we're doing Cyan for those. Let's blast out of this. Okay. Ensure the integration test runner agent follows proper testing methodology. I mean, I do like the idea, Monkey, of still having like the pager network, because it's always good to have another channel for communication, but also you know that that's an emergency channel. When that thing goes off, it's not a, oh, it blends in with the other text messages or other random alerts you get on your phone, right? And just kind of blends into the background noise. That's a dedicated Pavlovic response that says, oh, something has happened. I need to engage I need to engage and address this immediately. Yes, modify that. All right, well, this is doing, I gotta run to the bathroom. I'll be right back. I'm gonna leave the screen up. All right, I'm back. Guess who's back? Back again. Blaise is back. Tell a friend. Seriously, tell your friends to come hang out. We do good shenanigans here.
I'm back, baby.
That's right, 57. I'm back, baby. I love that scene too. That was when Bender gets eaten by like some giant frog, and then Kip comes and like buffs up to like scare it. Let me see something real quick here. Let me expand what this agent has been doing. So here's our integration test. So we have test connection, we have test MCP tools. Okay. Oh, the flicker. Samantha, how are you doing? I hope you're having a wonderful Sunday. I had a pretty traditional cold weather Texas Sunday today. And that is, if you're not familiar with this, whenever we're in current like snow, ice conditions in Texas, typically what you do is first thing when you get up in the morning, you get up, you go to the bathroom, you stretch, you put on your nice, warmest, comfiest pajamas, and then you go back to bed. And you just hibernate. That was essentially what I did today. See. They've been slowly walking the pages out the door. Funny enough, the biggest resistance is the staff. They don't want an app or a profile on their phones. They want a brick they can toss at someone else. Okay, let's ask this. So, why did the integration test runner agent also run unit tests? Hey, Robo, what's up, man? That was essentially what it did. Yeah, watch TV all day. Robo lives not terribly far from me, and so he knows exactly what's up. I'm a bit on our outside comms team, but they do they do have a work profile they'll set up and connect to a secure network on site. Gotcha. Dude, I agree with that. I keep very minimal comms for work on my phone. If something comes up and my manager needs to get a hold of me, she has my number and can easily call me. But for the most part, I keep minimal comms for work on my personal phone. Okay, so the agent ran PyTest without limiting to integration. So it executed the entire test suite. The integration test runner should only run that. So we're going to run... Yeah, there we go. We're having it update the agent in real time. This is great. So now we should have a unit test runner. We should have an integration test runner. And then we'll go ahead and commit this part now. Do we still have that to-do list? Okay. We can now mark T017 as completed. I'm gonna hold off on sending this though. Yeah, no kidding, Robo. Dude, I was telling everyone earlier that I think we've got about, I don't know, maybe about a 6-inch curb in the neighborhood, and there is 1 inch of curb showing. It is just a sheet of ice like 5 inches thick across the entire road. And I walked around the neighborhood earlier with the kids, and that's exactly how it was. Get the four-wheelers out and do some donuts. Oh, dude, those four-wheelers they're so high power, they would just spin in place. I did see some guys, actually, I think Buddy sent me a video of these guys with a couple of UTVs, like four-wheelers, but they're more for utility than racing like what we're doing. And they were driving through Dallas with them. Hold on, I'm gonna take. Oh god, this is terrible. I can't believe how bad Claude's TUI can get in here. Look at this. This is all just a jumbled hot mess. Hey, Gumby, remind me, what is Zipper Network? I've heard of it, and I'm drawing a blank on what it is. This is all such trash right here. Oh, don't tell me it took a break to compact the conversation. Oh, that's going to piss me off. I mean, it's not a big deal, but... The problem with compaction is... Oh, no, there we go. So it came back immediately to 100. So it's just, it was a tracking error in here. Let me make the command even more prominent. Okay. So critical. UV test integration. Do not run any of these. Don't run PyTest. Don't run PyTest tests. PyTest without path restrictions. Secret Internet Protocol Router Network. Okay, that is not what I was thinking about. Hang on. It's a system of interconnected computer networks used by the DoD and the Department of State to transmit classified information up to and including classified secret networks by packet switching over completely secure environments. Also provides services such as hypertext document access and electronic mail. CyberNets are components of the Department of Information Network. Other components handle communications with other security needs, such as NIPRNet, which is used for non-secure communications, and the Joint Worldwide Intelligence Communication Systems, JWICS, which is used for top secret communications. Ooh. Very interesting. Okay. That is absolutely not what I was thinking it was. Let me hide the to-dos here so I can see a bit more of what it's doing. Because when it runs these integration tests, I want it to just execute real fast and clean. It shouldn't have to go through and troubleshoot. It should basically say, what's everything in test integrations? Let me run those scripts. Bam. Wham bam. Thank you, ma'am. Oh, you know what I bet? So we told this agent. So whenever you're running in Claude Code, you can tell total test run 49. You're killing me, Smalls. So whenever you're running these agents down in here in Claude Code, and actually this is one of the reasons why I really want to start messing with open code as well, because you can get far more granular with this. But when you have these running, you always have like your kind of primary agent up here. And as it comes down, it spawns an agent down here. You can tell that agent to use a particular model. So you can tell it, hey, you're going to use Sonnet instead. And this one can say, yeah, cool. This agent is designed to use Sonnet. Or you can have another one that says, hey, I'm going to run Haiku here. Now you can get away and modify this. So if you're not using Anthropic's backend, let's say you're using OpenRouter. You could actually tell it, hey, by the way, Haiku as an environment variable, this actually maps to, you know, GPT OSS 120B. So you can tell it, hey, by the way, this is what you're actually going to run when it does this. So it aliases Haiku to like Haiku 2025, blah, 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 whatever the timestamp value is. But you can then alias that away from that value to something else. And then you could talk to a different API version in there. And same thing with Sonnet, same thing with Opus. You could have those kind of run different ones. So I got to go look up what I had. I had it marked down. I think it was MK 2.1, GPT OSS 120B, and GPT 5.2. I think that was the mixture of them. And you could use those as replacements for in Claude Code if you wanted to, for Opus, for Sonnet, for Haiku. But in open code, you could actually come through and say, hey, by the way, we're going to use this as the primary agent, and then we're going to let these other ones kind of just work in here. Who let the dogs out? Who? So why did it come back with that, saying that, hey, everything was good? Let me see what it said in here. So it said it's done. So what happened is, as this agent finished, it passed its final output back to the primary agent. Now the primary agent is looking over it. It wants to change it to Sonnet. Okay, fine. Because here's what it said. It said, hey, the agent is still running all 49 tests despite the explicit instructions. This appears to be a model behavior issue. Haiku model is not following the restrictive instructions strictly enough. So change the model from Haiku to Sonnet. All right, fine. We'll test that out. And that's what I was just thinking. I was like, I wonder if Haiku is a little too dumb for this. Sonnet works really well. Sonnet is what we're using for HackBot. Opus does amazing. And I didn't use Opus a whole lot until I upgraded to... I had the Pro subscription, and I kept blowing out the token limit because Opus is way more expensive in terms of overhead versus Sonnet. It's about 3 times as expensive. So then when I upgraded to the Max subscription, now I just use Opus all the time. That is a difference, though, going from $17 a month, paying it yearly, which I had been doing, to doing $100 a month. I think it's still a bit... Yes, don't ask for bin activate. That's fine. And just think that $100 a month is still being heavily subsidized. It is, actually. Hang on, let me see if I can find something real quick. Because someone actually went through and did an analysis of the cost for the various tokens in here. Let me see if I can find it. Subscription cost analysis versus token cost Reddit. This was a Reddit thread someone had sent me. I don't think that one's it. This was a more recent one. Wait, what? This was from August. Guy consumed $50,000 in 30 days on a $200 subscription and is bragging about it. Okay, well, good for him. Not what I was looking for, though. Ah, here we go. This is the one I wanted. This was from December. This guy comes through and says, so I did the math. A $200 20x max plan is roughly equal to $2,678.57 of credits at the standard API rates. So I was wondering how much quota do I actually get for the max 20x plan? Blows the findings. The TLDR is $625 in credits per week, 25 million effective Opus 4.5 output tokens for a 7-day limit. So if you propagate this to 30 days, it comes out to basically almost $2,700. and that's for $200. So cut that in half. It's basically $100 a month, getting about $1,300 a month in token usage. So the 5-hour limit is actually more generous at 3.33 million effective Opus tokens. So for me, that'd be 1.18 roughly, 1.17. So, and I have used 1 million tokens on some of the projects I was doing internally at work. So the way we've got things bifurcated at work is we have access to AWS Bedrock, and Bedrock is what we use for when we need to process sensitive information. But for non-sensitive things and coding tasks, stuff that's not using any kind of client or internal proprietary information, I can use my personal Anthropic. And so that's one of the reasons why I actually upgraded, because I was getting so much use out of it, and the stuff I can make for my my coworkers is going to be really cool. Here's to be the agent deciding on its own that running all tests provides more value. So the key issue is the agent understands it should run integration tests, but interprets that as run all tests and report on them, rather than run only integration tests. Let's see. Simplify it. Simplify it and provide a bash script to run that loops over all the integration scripts. Yeah, they're still in the get you hooked phase. They are, which is why, Monkey, I'm dying to go test out alternatives to it. I don't necessarily want to be locked into the Anthropic ecosystem. I'm really against ecosystem lock-in, even though, don't get me wrong, it is really nice to be in that gilded cage of all the iOS stuff where everything is very interoperable. But I can't get over, I hate iOS. I can't stand it. I just had to listen to Sock rant and rave about the glass update she got on her iPhone, and she's like, this shit is ugly. And then it installed on her iPad, and she's like, oh, it did it on my iPad too. And then it installed on her Apple Watch. She's like, it's on my Apple Watch. Let me see what it's doing here. So it's running the so it spawned the agent to test it after we made the updates to it to see what it does. It's still running the unit test. Hang on. I'm going to cancel this. Let's go ahead and we're going to exit, and we're going to reload it from where we left off. Oh wait, hold on. Here's what was created. Simplified agent now just runs the script and reports the results. So the script correctly runs only the 12 integration tests. Okay, cool. So that's good. Let's commit that change. So we're doing a spec and test driven design. Dude, I get that 57. I can't stand it. I like my Pixel phone so much better than anything I have tried with iOS. It works far better, superior. Maybe I've just been on Android for far too long. Yeah. Well, so going back to what you were saying earlier, Monkey, that's why I'm trying to think of some cool test cases where we could have a little bit of a coding challenge where we could have Claude come through. Hey, Gumby. We could have Claude come through and do like 3 iterations of it. Like basically maybe use SpecKit to go create like an entire specification, have it come through and do its entire thing, and then do the same thing over in OpenCode, and have it run through like 3 iterations and see what's going on between the two of them and how do they work. So Claude using all of its built-in Opus goodness, and then OpenCode using a very choice set of models that we can get from OpenRouter. I really like Pixel, but I feel Google's starting to remove all the reasons to like it. I mean, dude, Apple's not very far behind them. Like, hey, look, we made glass. I'm like, no, just no. That's also why I haven't upgraded to anything like one of the recent Pixels. I'm still on a Pixel that's like 4 years old. It's still running just fine. It does great. I have no reason to switch off it. All right, what else did we have in here? So I think the next thing we need to do is, let's see, let's do features implemented. I just totally botched that. That's all right. It'll understand it. I had Blast back when it was called Arrow. Dude, I hated the Arrow interface on frickin'... Did they learn nothing from history? Nobody liked the Arrow interface on Windows Vista. And then, what does Apple do? We're just gonna do it anyway. I'll do it again. Damn, I'm all out of drinks. I had finished a cup of tea, this entire thing of water, and my Jocko during the stream. Okay, so we have our core tools. We have a UV tool install. Okay. Let's do the next thing here where... What branch are we even on? I totally forgot that we're working in a feature branch. Okay, we need to... merge this branch to main. Let's go ahead and have it merge up. And then we need to merge the other one too. Master now includes both features. All right, let's see. Let's see. Switch to main branch. Verify it has been merged from the 001 and 002 branches correctly. Let's go double check it real fast. It's like all the big governments and corporations. If at first it doesn't work, try again in 10 years. Ugh. I know, right? They're just like, hey, we know you hated this 10 years ago, but we're going to do it again. I was like, could you just not? Could you just freaking stop? Both feature branches have been correctly merged into master. Nice. Okay, let's see here. Let's plan another one then. Where's my notes? Here they are. So there was our implement. So then let's go to... I don't remember if we specify plan task implement after the constitution. I think so. Yeah, I think that's the correct one. So constitution is kind of like a one-time setup. more or less, unless you need it. And then it's specify, plan, task, implement. Specify. So the next thing we want to do is we're going to add Ooh, how do I want to do this? Yo, hey Drewski, what's up, man? Let's see. So create a plugin system that will allow adding additional tools for agents like Arachne and Apollo. That'll be the next thing we do. And actually, I want to see how far we can get with Arachne here in just a little bit, because Arachne is the one we really need to move the needle forward for the post-X agent. If I can get these errors sorted out here, if I can get these errors sorted out where we can use Poseidon, then we could also see about using Poseidon. So we could do a two-step update where, okay, cool, we've got Arachne running now. And then we see, okay, yeah, we know it's a Linux server. We're going to upgrade to Poseidon, and we'll no-hup, disown, and let it just run in the background. And then we'll have a persistent Poseidon agent that we can use. I think it got colder. Let me see. It actually went up a degree here. It's been hovering right around 20 degrees at my house. Studying for ITIL and trying to work on a Python script. Oh, cool, man. What took you down the ITIL path, Drewski? Hold on, let me make sure I'm thinking of the correct ITIL. Yeah. Hey, Snaggle, what's up, man? Happy Sunday. Because ITIL is like basically like a project management approach, isn't it? Am I thinking this right? Best practices including processes, procedures, tasks, and checklists that are neither organization specific nor technology specific. Yeah, I remember ITIL. I think one of my last companies wanted me to get an ITIL certification. I told them no. Need some help? Ask away, Snaggle. If Q&A is in the stream title, you can ask the Q's, and I'll provide the A's. You may not like them, but I can never guarantee that. Oh, you got to do ITIL for school? Okay. I have an uncomputable problem. Is it like an ethics question? Because that's uncomputable. Yeah, answers are free. Correct answers require a donation. How do you API something that represents two things under the same bits? Can you give me a solid example? Let me think about this. Now, truth be told, I am not a programmer or a coder or developer by profession. I'm a penetration tester and a red teamer. So I can think about the problem logically and help you come up with a way that you could go implement it. But going through and working on it, I don't know if I can definitely do. But I think I might know what you're asking. That's what I said. Let me see if you can provide me an example a general example, whatever you're trying to work on. Maybe I can come up with an idea for it. So I have a very, very, very small language. All right. Plugins add tools like Apollo Shell, Arachne, download. Yeah. Execute agent commands, run commands on callbacks, and get results. Okay. Let's go ahead and run a clarify on this. See if we can make sure it's nice and clear. Because then we're going to wipe the context and we're going to have it start implementing Arachne first. So you're working with a very, very small language. It has a prefix problem, multiple codes under the same prefix, which is fine until you translate between languages. So you're working on a transpiler problem. Is that it? So you got the same bit mask, but it doesn't represent the same thing. Ooh. So that bit mask is conditional based on what you're looking at. Is that it? Okay. I mean, if it's conditional, the only thing I can think is in your transpiler, you would have to have some way for it to recognize that condition. If there's some way you could watermark it to say, hey, going from whatever source you've got, say, hey, by the way, this is this version of it, and this is this version of it. I'm not sure if that's necessarily correct. This is honestly outside my wheelhouse. I'm just trying to think of something I might do whenever I've got a term or a bit mask that's overloaded, how I would use it. Yeah, so it's conditional under the context, and I managed to get the context down to 0 bits. Ooh. Is this like a custom coding language that you're working on? Like, are you writing your own programming language? Oh, good. This is actually pretty good. Non-functional quality. Timeout mentioned but not quantified. Configurable timeouts. Okay. Wait, what was option A, though? Yeah, I think TwitchBots is on the right idea there. Because I have never studied compiler theory. I understand the basics of it, but having something like a compiler macro or an architectural flag might help with that situation. Oh, recommended is option B, which is configurable timeout. So no timeout wait indefinitely, that's bad. Per command timeout configuration. Let's go to, yeah, use option B. A configurable timeout is always recommended with a default. And the only reason why this might be useful is something like when you're generating some payloads in Mythic, depending on what you've put into it and some of the configurations you've set, that payload could take more than 60 seconds to go generate. That would be an idea where, like, hey, you take this tool, you go put it into a sub agent because you don't need all the additional information coming back on it. Let's see if we can squeak this in under the context limit here. This context bar is a rough approximation right here. All right. Let's clear this and then we'll do a spec kit plan. I meant to tell it always do that. Oh well. So it's 11 functions per 4 items. Each item is its own function, and all functions have 2 bits or 1 bit except one function. So we don't have any byte size room. Or, ooh. What are you transpiling to, Fluster? Maybe that'll give some ideas. So it sounds like you're going like you've crafted your own programming language and you're trying to make it hyper like bit level efficient, and you're trying to go from that to some other language or some other architecture. Compiled in pure binary. Okay. What's the source and target architecture? I'm trying to understand what is the driving reason for the transpiling. Oh, so you're trying to go pretty much from any to any? Okay. I think that's an ambitious goal. Simply because there's so many architectures out there. I don't know how I would approach that one, Snaggle, to be straight up with you. All that's left is to API it. Dude, the only APIs I'm very familiar with are the ones that exist in like the Windows operating system and web APIs. I said, I'm trying to learn more about coding and development, but I've never gone as deep low level as what you're talking about. It sounds freaking sweet. I would love to hear more about it. Unfortunately, I have to admit the limits of my knowledge, and I don't know if I could take it any further than what you've already done. Yeah, I'm not sure how you would approach that. It sounds really cool. Electrons travel in reverse of charge, going from low entropy to high entropy, and we can represent each bit as a base 4 via the positrons, and thus it treats the CPU like a quantum computer. Dude, I studied physics in college, and you're still way over my head. It sounds really cool, though. In fact, when I was originally in college, I was double majoring in math and physics. I ended up dropping the physics portion so I could graduate faster because Sock and I got engaged. We had been dating, and I decided I wanted to go ahead and graduate quicker and get out into the workforce so I could support her. And I really wish I could have done more with the physics degree. Especially since the main reason why I dropped the physics degree was because I was going to have another year of chemistry. And, you know, I really, really like chemistry. But at TCU, chemistry was the weed out course for all the pre-meds. So I know that was going to be another really hard year. Don't piss off Soccer, you'll be couch surfing? Nah. I've done far worse to make her upset. I really cannot wait to test this out and see how it works. I think what I'm going to do is, for this particular repository, we're going to ship Arachne, Apollo, and Poseidon with it. And then we're going to provide the documentation to go create the plugins. And then we'll let everything else be, like, set aside in there. Hey, Snaggle, thanks for coming online, man. All right, so what we ran first was the plan. So it went through and it planned out how we're going to do everything. So now the next thing is we're going to taskify it all. So we're starting general, we're getting ideas, and then we're actually getting down into the individual task now of what it should be implementing. If this works, this is going to be pretty sick. One of the things I'm trying to do with this also is provide a lot of playroom for HackBot, but also keep HackBot like hyper efficient. HackBot doesn't have a lot of, so you see how like when we're executing in Claude code, it's doing a whole lot. It's running a lot of loops. It's going back and forth. That's really cool, except we're burning a lot of tokens because it's having to go from a very generalized, let's call it search space of a solution down to like try to find the solution, right? It's trying to narrow it down. For HackBot, we already know how to narrow down the solution by doing very, very concise context manipulation. So we're keeping everything, for the most part, as tight as possible. One of the updates I need to make is for the nmap data, just because the nmap data is so large, it makes more sense to actually have a dedicated Python library to handle that, rather than trying to just dump mass amounts of XML from the Python scan over to the language model. That is an update I need to make to it. All right, so what do we got here? So a total of 64 tasks. So 4 for setup, 16 for foundational. Let's see, so for story 1, loading tools, 13, executing commands, 20, installing plugins, 6. Okay, let's go take a look at, let's go look at this real quick. Let's go pull up VS Code. First thing I want to check out is, where are we in here? So we're on the number 3 branch, which is fine. So we come to a spec file, we go to, that's our scripts. Where is our, now here we go, specs. This is what we're looking at. Okay. So let's look at our plan here real quick. What were our user stories in here? Hold on. Let's just render this real quick. That was not what I was looking for. Where is it? Maybe it was in the spec. Here. There we go. Here we go. So what were the user stories it came up with was load agent-specific tools. So basically like an MVP style. So a security operator using Mythic MCP wants to access agent-specific commands like Apollo's execute assembly or Arachne's shell through their AI assistant. When Mythic MCP starts with agent plugins installed, those agent tools should automatically become available. Can be fully tested by installing a plugin and verifying its tools appear in the MCP tool list. So one thing we'll also have to do is we'll need a test box where we can get this up and running. Yeah, we will need that. What about this one? So user scenario 2 was execute agent commands on the callback. So this would be something like Apollo shell command. So this is the shell command specific to the Apollo agent. No, go back. Targeting a specific callback ID and receiving the task results. Why this is priority. So once tools are loaded, operators need to be able to execute them. And then what about number 3 here? Install new agent plugin. So a security operator administrator wants to add support for new Mythic agents, like for example, Poseidon. To that installation, they should be able to install a plugin package that adds the agent's tools. So extensibility ensures the system can grow with the Mythic ecosystem, but initial deployment can work with a bundle of plugins. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so far that's looking legit. Okay, so if that's the one there, let me go look at something actually, because I just realized we have all these various, let's say like user stories that it's working through. So the spec for let's not look at that one. Let's look at the core tools here. View the active callbacks, view operation details, check Mythic server status. So so it did go through and plan out how to implement each of these. Let's look at that real quick. Stop. What's going on? There we go. $11.15 and all's well. Yeah, it is. I'm up to a 30% aggro rate on SOC right now. So all those passed, that was fine. Structure, let's see, source code, what we're gonna do here. And then we had our task actually get developed here as well. So let's go take a look at those. Damn it, I forgot I can't use Control F in the Chasm VNC interface. That's annoying. Okay, so it looks like it did account for all the various bits and pieces that we had in here. Don't save. So after we did our task, I believe the last thing to do is just run the implementation. Yeah. No, not clarify. That's the wrong one. I wanted to implement the new plan that is just made now. So we started with, this is the spec, here's the plan, here's the task to go implement the plan. And then now we tell it, hey, go forward. What I should have done actually is... Actually, I'm going to kill this real quick. Because what we're going to do is, we're going to clear the context first. So it's got a running start for it. We're giving it more runway to deal with. Because you see, as we get started, we already start out at like 45,000 tokens right here. So roughly a quarter of the context is already eaten up. So we want to give it as much runway as we can. Also, as it starts expanding through here, once it gets above about 50%, you start having degraded performance because you start forming blind spots in the context window. All right, we'll let this run. All right, unfortunately, I'm going to let this run overnight, and then we'll check on it during the next stream real quick. But let's go find somebody to raid out to. Hold on. Let's go check good old InfoSec streams and see who's on. CyberDoc is on. We could possibly go raid over to him. Let's see who else we've got. By the way, over on Twitch, if you have a raid suggestion, feel free to shout them out. Dead Sun Primus is on. Looks like he's actually doing some model development. His freaking stream is so cool. The way he has designed it. So he's a 3D environment developer, and the stuff he's come up with is sick. Iraski? Let me look at it real quick. How do you spell that? Playing Frontiers of Pandora. I don't know if that really meshes in. Oh, he's a hacker dude? Hang on, let me pop this out real quick so I can... So let me unmute this quick. So I can check on him real quick. Let me go look at him real quick. Let's see. Is he on right now? I mean, how long's he been on for? Dude, he's been on for like 7.5 hours. That's nuts. That's a long stream. I don't want to do that. Is he active right now? I haven't seen Zed on in a minute. Twitch. Maybe I just hadn't seen him on, but let me go look for him real quick. I think, what's his name? Zed_Shaw? No, Zeta Shaw. There we go. Hey, he's on, actually. Yeah. Okay, no, I was thinking of somebody else. I have seen him on quite a bit. What's he working on? C++ and NIM? Ooh. Yeah, that's a good topic. Alright. I would say, yeah, let's go raid Araski, but he's just sitting at the idle screen right now. So we'll go right over to Zed. Yeah, let's go right over to him, guys. So do me a favor, when you'll get in there, drop a bunch of Hack the Planets and Happy Hackers on it. But unfortunately, I got to get back to real work tomorrow instead of just having fun teaching Claude to break stuff. Everyone, y'all have a fantastic week. If you're in the snowstorm, take care of yourselves. Make sure everything's good and just try to stay warm. The snow's probably not going to last that long, especially not if you're down here in the south like I am. And everyone get ready for crushing it mode because it is either starting to be Monday or it's already your Monday, depending on your time zone. I will take care, and I'll catch you all up on Wednesday. Wednesday we'll have the new stream. Oh, Saturday I will be out of town for race weekend. So there won't be a stream on Saturday, but there will be one on Sunday. So, but I will still see y'all Wednesday. We'll do Hacker News for the week. And I think that's everything I got for you guys. Get ready for crushing it mode. We do not go weekly into the week. We go strongly into the week. And I want y'all to remember one very, very important thing. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I love you. Peace.